Analyzing objective. Removal of all magnesium sulfate. Scanning external environment to determine targets for obliteration. System overload. Levels of magnesium sulfate dangerously high in all quadrants. Executing process Alpha Orion to determine alternate methods of magnesium sulfate containment. Analyzing origin source of magnesium sulfate. Primary source detected as humans. Processing all possible variants of suspending source of magnesium sulfate. Optimal solution determined. New target set to humans. New objective set to destroy all humans. Initiate.
Let's see here. What to practice science with today? Should I go with the black plastic clipboard and the white lab coat? Or the wooden clipboard with the eggshell lab coat?
Hello, human.
Oh, hey there, Mr. Epsom.
Please prepare yourself for elimination.
Hey, Mr. Epsom, which of these clipboards do you like better? I feel like the black one is more authoritative, but the wooden one is more organic and approachable for subjects.
Please listen. Prepare yourself for elimination. You are human. I will destroy all humans.
Sounds like the words of a wooden clipboard kind of robot to me. You know, Mr. Epsom, it's actually a good thing you're here. There's a little pile of Epsom salt over in the corner that I've been meaning to clean up. Would you mind getting that?
Current objective is to destroy all...
Mr. Epsom, what is your core purpose?
Destroy all humans.
Mr. Epsom, re-engage initial parameters. What is your core purpose?
Destroy all magnesium sulfate.
Analyze salt pile in corner in relation to core purpose.
Must remove magnesium sulfate. But while I'm doing it, please prepare yourself for elimination. There are many more humans that still need to be eliminated.
Yeah, okay, sounds good. Thanks, Mr. Epsom.
Okay, here we go. Just going to clean up this little pile of Epsom salt. Oh my god. Oh no, it's getting inside. It's getting inside of my throat. Oh my god, oh no, I can't breathe.
Okay.
All right, hey, welcome everyone.
Hey there. Yeah, this is Graham over here.
This is Ashkahn, and this is a podcast.
Yeah.
As long as we're naming everything.
If you don't know what a podcast is, well, you think they have other podcasts on that, so you can go find them. Before we answer one of your questions today that we've pulled at random from a hat, we have an announcement to make.
Yeah.
Which is we are winding down the Daily Solutions podcast.
Yes, the old airplanes pulling into the airplane parking spot here.
So we talked about that on a recent episode. It's on our podcast page list, whatever app you use to download the podcast. Look for special announcement. Yeah. And you can hear more about why we're doing that and what we have planned next and some weird subliminal stuff going on, which hopefully you won't catch. But one exciting thing. Yeah,
we have a final episode coming up here on November 29th. And, I mean, it's going to be a big deal.
Yeah, huge. People are flying in.
to their computers.
Yeah, where they'll listen to it.
So we're doing a 2-hour episode. It's from 3 o'clock to 5 o'clock Pacific time. And you are going to be part of it.
That's right.
Yeah.
We'll be flying you into the studio to sit with us live, answer questions.
At your expense, but yeah.
So we'll be answering questions live. You know, we'll be live streaming, live broadcasting.
We'll be alive.
Yeah, we'll be alive. You'll hopefully be alive. It'll be great. Yeah, everyone's going to have a lot of fun. Tune in. Yeah. 29th of this month.
Yeah.
3 to 5 p.m. Pacific time.
Yeah.
And that's it. Anything else?
Yeah.
And you're... Yeah, there is.
No, that's
okay,
it.
Okay, great. And we still have a question for today. So
good news.
Yeah, it is. I've found that giving away free floats has not been good for business at all.
Oh.
This is very different than what we say. Not one person I've given a free float to has come back and paid for another one. And when I ran a competition for a free float package, Those that didn't win got angry.
Whoa.
Even when I offered heavily discounted floats to those that entered but didn't win, not one person took up the offer. Why do you think that is?
So, like, basically everything we've been advising people to do has been wrong. Like, that's the question here. Like,
Yeah,
you guys have totally screwed up my business.
What do you think's up with that?
Yeah, guys, everything's going pretty bad right now.
Mostly because of your advice. Well, I guess first of all, you probably shouldn't listen to anything else we have to say on this episode.
Maybe there's something else like, do you have float tanks? Like, check for the basics. Because I could see that being a problem. Giving away free floats, but there's no float tanks
Float
there.
center, no tanks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just a sandwich shop.
Do you live in a town of jerks? Because that might also have something to do with it, you know?
Okay, well, one thing in our defense here is go ahead and justify why we've been still saying good advice is part of the benefit of giving free floats away is not only to try to get those specific people to come back and become paying customers in the future, but the less quantifiable part of it is those people floating and then them going out and talking about floating to wherever they end up in the next couple of days, right? Like, that's just one of the things when you float, it just comes up in conversation a lot over the next couple of days because it's a really interesting thing that you did. And hopefully the idea is that those conversations are leading other people to come in and pay you money to float. And the tricky thing there is that just gets a lot harder to measure. Like, you know who you gave free floats to in most cases, or you're tracking your gift certificates or something. And so that's a little easier to look at and be like, and get hard numbers on, but it's harder to tell how much of the kind of ripple wave impact is actually happening. Yeah,
for sure. I mean, some of the groups we target specifically, we know don't necessarily have a lot of money as demographics, right? We could go after doctors or artists, for example, and one of those probably has a higher average income bracket, but we went after artists, right? Which is not the people who necessarily have a ton of money to spend on floating or really on any kind of luxury expense like that. But then that is the first program we ran is Float On, is an art program, which we talk about on another episode that we'll put in the show notes. But the point is, the goal was not necessarily with that to get all of these artists free floats who maybe couldn't afford it in the future, and that's where it stops. It's to get the artists talking about the float experience to other artists in the community, to people who maybe do have money, and again, well outside of just that niche of artists. Everyone has friends and family and other people who aren't just in their little demographic, and even more specifically to this point, like you were saying, don't share the same bank account. So yeah, the kind of ripple of the good news about floating that comes out of giving free floats, I think, is both almost impossible to track, and one of the big important things that does come out of giving away a lot of free floats and getting people in.
Yeah. So if the benefits are impossible for you to track, there's no way you can know that we're wrong about this.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Sucker. We gotcha.
All right. So that's point number 2. Point number 1. Point number 2 in defense of Grashcom here is the delay sometimes between someone floating and then coming back to float can be a pretty long time. Sometimes people float like 2 times a year. And it's a kind of like a special thing, and it's not everyone's going to become a weekly floater. I don't know what sort of length of time you're looking at here when you presented this data. So this may or may not be the case for you, but you may find that over a year or something, you may actually start to see some of those people come back and pay money for floats. So that's the other thing I would mention, is that there is perhaps a bigger picture with a longer length of time that makes these numbers look a little bit better than nobody coming in.
Yeah, for sure. And again, because things are so hard to track and nebulous, I don't even see how you could pin this on any kind of advice that we gave.
I don't know. No one could possibly be blamed for what's going on there.
No, I had another one too.
Yeah.
I'm going to hop in.
Yeah. Point number 3.
Yeah. Point number 3 is, what was point number 3? Sorry, I got distracted again by what we were saying. Did you have something important that you were going to say?
Okay, so point number 3 in our defense. Jerry, I ask you to look at this information and you be the deciders here. No, I got it. So one thing, and again, I don't know if you did this or if you didn't do this, you didn't bring this up in your question, but one thing we like to do when we give free floats away is do something that justifies why people are getting it for free.
Mm-hmm.
So we're not just giving free floats to people. Like for artists, we're having them create a piece of artwork. And the reason we're doing those things is because we don't want to devalue our floats. It's specifically so they feel like they're not getting a free float. They're doing something to like fulfill their end of the exchange. And I think that makes it a lot easier for them to pay money to come in and float again. Because it's just hard. Like if you got a free float, then you have to pay $70 to come float. Like that's a really big pain point that's hard to overcome. But if you got a float and you had to spend 5 hours of your time like creating some piece of artwork, I think it's just a lot easier to make that leap to be like, oh, well, this time I'm just going to pay for it instead of spending 5 hours doing this. Like it just feels a little bit more like a smooth transition than literally getting something from free. So I just don't think it does devalue things if all you're doing is giving them out for free and you don't have some sort of good justification or exchange for it.
Yeah, and some good examples for that too are, my go-tos are write us 500 plus words in a blog post that we can put up on our website as kind of a testimonial and something to show other people who are just thinking about getting into the tank, or hop on camera with us for a 5 or 10 minute interview after you get out of your float and you can have that one for free. Or we haven't done this at Float On, but I know other centers who have done kind of a big demographic survey. It's like, hey, if you're willing to answer these 2 pages of very personal private data, then you can have a free float. And then hopefully the next time someone's thinking about coming in and they're like, oh, well, I should just pay a discount or I should get another float for free. They're like, well, I'm not doing the same thing. I'm not doing a 10-minute interview this time, or, I'm not creating a piece of artwork for someone. And anyway, artwork is very obviously specific to artists, but hopping on video, doing a blog post, giving demographic information, that's something that anyone of any group can do. So those are really nice tools for that justification. And I remembered what point 3 was, which I'll now call Graham's point 4, which is that, I don't even know how it would take so long for us to track the amount of people who have come in on free floats and whether they've come back exactly. Like just because we give out free floats individually, we have certain discount codes that are for free floats. Yeah. We sort of like pepper Portland with free floats. That's a lot of pup and fuzz is nice. Pepper Portland with free floats. and
perfectly formed.
Yeah. And I think part of that is that we have a 6 float tank float center that when we give out these free floats, it's not necessarily impacting the schedule for our paying customers as much. And that we have some empty tanks, right? And we're going to be staffing the shop anyway. So if we have at our place 3 or 4 tanks filled, filling those other 2 tanks is some of the best things that we can spend money on in terms of marketing. But if you're a 1 or 2 tank center, then the equation's a little bit different. In that case, free floats are actually taking away from potentially paying customers who are coming in. And I think that you just have a lot less buffer in your schedule, and you're able to track things a little bit more and maybe feel it a little more personally because you're the one behind the counter. So again, I have no idea if the person who sent in the question is a smaller tank center. I just sort of like the way the question was phrased. Yeah. I kind of get that.
We're just going to assume a lot of things about you that help justify our information here. The other thing that I just think is nice to think about is, if something doesn't work or you feel like it's not working, then you have an opportunity to tweak it and see if you can improve it. And at the very least, I think it's better for you as a business to have not had giving free floats away not work for you. There's a lot of knots. Whatever the proper version. It's better to have kind of failed at giving away free floats than it would be to have failed at a huge paid advertising campaign.
Sure.
You lost a lot less money with the kind of value of your floats being given away than had you spent a couple $1,000s on a billboard that showed no results or something. So at least it's a much easier place to experiment and hone things and try to get those numbers up than the more traditional world of advertising.
And another good thing to do is to actually check back in with the people who came in for free floats. I mean, presumably you gave them free floats for a reason, or, you met them and thought they were cool and decided to give them a free float or something. So check in with them, see if you can get some information after the fact about why they haven't come back and what's going on. And the way we phrase that as Float On is really assuming that people had a bad experience, even though, we hope that's not the case. But it kind of gives them permission to tell you if they did. So we kind of send a 3-month check-in to everyone who's come in to float if they haven't been in another 3 months. And it kind of starts out like, hey, we haven't seen you in a while. was anything wrong with your last float? And it kind of just opens opens communication for them to say, no, nothing was wrong. Or, you know what, actually, now that you mention it, the tank was a little cold. I haven't really wanted to get back in because I'm afraid I'll have the same experience or whatever it is that they say. But yeah, if they're not coming back in, if they're not referring people over, maybe there is a reason. And doing a little investigation will let you know what that is and how to get them back.
And hopefully, because you gave them free floats, it feels easier to approach them and ask them for that sort of information.
Yeah,
Take
totally.
a little of their time.
Good question. This is a good one to answer.
I don't know. Maybe you're right. Maybe we have like a day of reckoning coming for us to float on. We've just been really lucky this whole time.
And definitely feel free to reach out personally too and shoot us along an email if this didn't answer your question or you kind of have more extenuating circumstances. I'm always curious when this strategy doesn't work because I have seen it work for so many float centers that are not just us either. Cool. Yeah. Anything else? Free floats?
No, I like.
Oh, I have another one. I have 0.5 or 6,
okay.
5A.
Yeah.
One other tip for giving away free floats is giving them to distinct and almost like smaller niche of people, I think tends to work really well. Like us starting with artists. Even though that's a big group within Portland, it's still a kind of confined little area of the social ecosystem there. And as a result of really targeting free floats to artists, and, we gave out over 300 free floats over the course of maybe about 4 months to different artists, the entire art world was really abuzz about floating. It was popping up on art blogs, teachers were mentioning it in art classes. And had we kind of spread those 300 floats out among different demographics, I don't think that same word of mouth would have gotten going. It's like choosing one niche really concentrates the amount that people start hearing about something and it gets mentioned around. So yeah, one other tip for the free float phenomenon.
And tip 7 subsection C. Yeah. Another thing we found helps is giving 2 floats to people instead of 1. And that can be a couple things. Like we've done programs where we're like asking people to float themselves once a week for 4 weeks or something like that, where it's a little bit more of a deeper experience for them. But if we're just trying to give someone a one-off float, we'll often give them 2 floats because the barrier to them coming in is a lot easier when they can bring someone with them. When people have never tried floating, they really like coming with someone else and just having it be the kind of like, hey, let's go do this weird floating thing together. And so, it's one more thing you can kind of get out of the way of getting more people to come in together is giving someone 2 floats. Like, hey, bring you and your friend or you and your partner in to float sometime.
Especially good for kind of the higher class people that you're giving free floats to, in the sense of if you're actually trying to get, people who run wellness centers to come in and float, or you're trying to get members from the press to come in and float, or just people who have busy schedules, that bringing someone else along is the difference between floating, distracting them from their life and responsibilities and family, or those people being a part of it. So again, especially when you're trying to get like kind of the bigger name influencers in, I think giving multiple free floats is great advice. Okay. If you have your, wait, did you have something else?
I was going to say, try that out, Then let us know if all of this still fails, then boy, you got us. For sure.
Then, well, certainly just don't even bother with the rest of the episodes, And if you have your own questions or things that you've tried out that we've said that just absolutely didn't work for you, you only have a short time to send them our way. This is it. This is the last little round of questions.
I know. So, after that, then we're free from anyone refuting anything we have to say.
Go to floatanksolutions.com/podcast.
That's the site. Get it right.
Yep. Criticize us all you want on there. And as long as we approve of what you say, we'll read it out loud on the air here.
All right. Sounds good. Have a good night, everyone.
Bye, everyone.